All right, everyone, happy Monday. Tomorrow night, Celtic will take on the might of Borussia Dortmund in our second UEFA Champions League fixture of the season. Borussia Dortmund versus Celtic. It has one hell of a ring to it. And today we'll be finding out more about our Bundesliga opponents. We're going to be speaking to a German football expert, writer, podcaster, and Borussia Dortmund fan. But before we do all of that and look through some of your comments as well, I do have a little announcement concerning the channel and a bit of progress for the channel. And something that many of you have been asking for basically since we got this all started back at the start of February. I know that many of you will enjoy watching this 10 out of 10 handsome figure every morning with your cornflakes. But watching a video isn't always practical or the best option for many of you. So I'm delighted to announce that each and every episode we put out on Celtic AM will now be available as an audio-only podcast as well. So that means that you can listen when you're, out a run, on the train, on the way to work, in your car. You get the picture. Yes, Celtic AM is now available on your podcast app of choice. I'm talking Apple Podcasts, I'm talking Spotify, Amazon Music. I believe they're doing podcasts now. We're on there. I don't know if you use another podcast app that I've not mentioned. If you do, you probably need to sort out what you're doing with your life. But we're probably on there as well, as I understand that we're on virtually everywhere. And it means that you can just listen to our daily shows if that works a little bit better for you. I know it's something that you've all wanted, and I wanted it too, but I wanted to make sure we did it right. So I've joined the Sports Social Podcast Network, the best in the business, making this all possible. So, yep, it's great. Now that I've done that, I need you all to just do something in return for me. And it costs you absolutely nothing. Just go on to your favourite podcast app, search for Celtic AM and subscribe. As I say, it costs absolutely nothing. If you're feeling extra generous, you could even give me a 5-star rating or even write a little review. It just gets a bit more of a buzz going now that we're doing podcasts. So yeah, that's pretty much the news. Search whatever podcast app you use for Celtic AM. We'll be on there. Subscribe. And yeah, you don't have to look at me every morning, which I guess is a big bonus. Excellent. Now moving forwards, and let's talk Borussia Dortmund. Ben McFadyean is a German football writer who grew up in Dortmund. He is the founder of the Dortmund Fan Club London, the first English fan club of BVB. So you know about your German football, it's fair to say, Ben. You're a big Dortmund fan. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what led you down that path?
Yeah, my stepfather, Erhard, was Dortmund born and bred, and I lived there from 11 till 20 in Dortmund. And just started going to the Yellow Wall as a kid with my stepfather, and just loved it, really. It was just a home from home. You know, being out in Germany as a kid, it was quite difficult to learn the German language. And it was only when I started playing football locally in a local club at Tusswandhofen and going down on Saturdays and playing my games, training, and just watching the BBB. Really, I just loved it, and I've just kind of kept in touch with BBB ever since. Started the fan club in 2013 here in London, and yeah, it's an awesome club.
So for someone who, like me, who has never been to Dortmund Stadium, has never seen the yellow wall, how would you describe being at a match or even being in the yellow wall?
Yeah, I mean, I think like for many Celtic fans, whenever you visited, I think you've always been made very welcome in Dortmund. The clubs have a lot in common. The Signal Iduna Park, which we still call the Westfalenstadion, which is basically the original name of the club stadium, is an 81,000 capacity football stadium, which has obviously the yellow wall, the Südtribüne South Stand, 26,000 behind the goal. Impressive atmosphere. we have an 83,000 capacity and an 81,000 average, and we've had that for the last 5 years. So the tickets go fast. The fans are loyal. 55,000 season tickets, and yeah, I mean, when you hear that rendition of "You Never Walk Alone," you'll feel right at home. And as I said, there's always been a great relationship between Scottish fans and German fans, as we saw at the Euros. I was out at the Euros this summer for 3 weeks in Scotland, watching Scotland, and you'll just love it. Basically, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I was actually in Germany as well. It wasn't really worth the trip back from Australia because Scotland weren't great. But it's an interesting point you make. I wonder if that, because there was such a good relationship between the Germans and the Scottish fans that were over there, I wonder if there'll be a little bit of a carry-on from that, because it's obviously so fresh. I know not everyone going to support Celtic is Scottish, and I know not everyone supporting Dortmund will be German, but there might be a good, feel-good factor around the city as well.
Definitely. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few of Celtic fans. London Fan Club, we have a good relationship with the West London Celtic Supporters Club over in Brentford, there's a lot of them going out. We've been helping some of them with tickets for their area, and there's going to be a lot of Celtic fans going out, and for sure they'll feel they'll be made welcome at the Alta Markt, the old market square. Hopefully you get reasonable weather, it'll be a really good trip, definitely. And of course, the German beer. Dortmund has historically had 30 breweries, and they've still got, I think, about half that many. And it's good, cheap beer, fantastic food, and Dortmund is an old industrial city, and it's a welcoming place to watch football. So it may not be the prettiest city, but then some people might say that about Glasgow too. So we do football. That's what we do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great trip for anyone going. I'm very jealous of anyone who is going to Dortmund. Right, on the pitch matters, Ben. What about Dortmund's start to the season? A lot of chat about the 5-1 defeat to Stuttgart a few weeks ago. But I was looking at the results, and apart from that, it appears to have been not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had a change of coach this summer. Nuri Sahin, who has a limited amount of experience. He was over with Antalyaspor in Turkey, and he took them up from 13th to 7th place, which was a good improvement for the side. He is a kind of a club legend, I'd say. I mean, basically, he's gone all the way through from the under 14s all the way up to the senior team, then went off to Real Madrid, Liverpool, was basically expected to be, a leading international player. And I think that, his career perhaps wasn't quite, he was one of those players that Dortmund, alongside Mario Götze and Mats Hummels and various other players, Shinji Kagawa, that Dortmund bought back. He's very well known to the club. He's very well known to the fans. There's a great trust relationship with him, and he's obviously done his coaching badges, and he's come back now to take over from Edin Terzic, who I don't think did that badly, frankly, having won the cup and so on. But basically, I think the relationship started to wear thin with Edin Terzic in the end. Nuri is a safe pair of hands. He's brought in Lukas Piszczek, who some may remember, the former Poland international, who was very much loved at the club as his assistant. The results have been pretty good. There were one or two mishaps in the pre-season, but there was a good 2-0 win over Aston Villa. And then in the particularly impressive Dortmund, I would say, the 3-0 away win at Club Brugge, who are never an easy club to break down, particularly at the Jan Heysel Stadium in Belgium. And apart from that, a fairly dull 0-0 encounter with Werder Bremen, and we fell behind by 2 goals against VfL Bochum. But the club showed the typical Dortmund resilience of basically bouncing back and beat Bochum 4-2. And I guess they'd be particularly impressed by the fact that Felix Nemetša got himself on the scoreboard, him being a £25 million signing last season, who hasn't quite worked out. So I guess you could say a mixed bag of results, but overall some typical Dortmund qualities. And I'd probably not want to talk too much about the 5-1 thumping against Stuttgart, which frankly I think they're probably title contenders this season. So yeah,
right. Yeah, I mean, they're Champions League team, aren't they? They're a good team. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. You mentioned Nuri Sahin. He played under Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool. So those two have a relationship. I don't know how strong the relationship is. I think Sahin made some comments after leaving Liverpool, but I don't think they're going to be scrapping on the touchline or anything like that. So that'll be interesting. Emre Can as well. Brendan Rodgers will know him from Liverpool. Who would the main players be for Borussia Dortmund?
Yeah, nice. You flagged those relationships up, and I think that obviously Brendan Rodgers will remember them well. And I wonder whether Emre Can's actually going to get a game in. Because he has been struggling in spite of becoming captain last season. The main players, well, I mean, I think, Dortmund's quality is known, starting with the number one in goal, Gregor Kobel, who's now the Swiss number one goalkeeper, who is a former Stuttgart man himself. They've picked up Waldemar Anton, Germany international, from Stuttgart as well, and also Serhou Guirassy, who scored 28 goals in 28 matches last season.
Can we just repeat that? 28 goals in the Bundesliga last season in 28 matches. It's amazing.
Yeah, second only to Harry Kane.
Yeah,
pretty impressive. I think they've done exceptionally well to hire Pascal Gross from Brighton for just 9 million euros, that is, not pounds. So a very impressive hire who will give a lot of stability to them in the midfield, particularly given that he can play offensive and defensive very, very well. And then, of course, you've got the danger men, Julian Brandt, particularly from set pieces, Karim Adeyemi, who's one of the fastest players in the Bundesliga on the wing, and also obviously Daniel Malen, who's been on Arsenal's radar for the last season.
Okay. So a lot of pace there from the sound of things. I think Malen is quite quick, and Adeyemi. What's the kind of playing style? Are they a team that will try and control the match with keeping possession, or will they try and wait for Celtic to come out and counter-attack?
It's very difficult to say. They went 2-0 back against Bochum, who are a pretty lowly side, within 21 minutes. And they have looked vulnerable at times. And I think that's particularly to do with the back line. I mean, you'd expect with guys like Nico Schlotterbeck and Niklas Süle, who are Germany internationals in the back line, for there to be a lot of stability. But I think the issue is that having got rid of Ian Maatsen, which I think was a pretty big mistake, given that he's the best left back we've had for a very, very long time in quite a critical position. I think that at times they've been unable to find the right lineup at the back. And, I think Julian Rierson, who came from Union Berlin, has brought a lot of quality. But at the end of the day, it just depends which defensive performance we actually see on the day. So my club or our club are vulnerable to conceding goals, but they're also incredibly competent at creating opportunities, creating chances at the front. So essentially, the club, most recently, Nuri Sahin has played 4-2-3-1. It's fast-paced. It's what you'd expect from Borussia Dortmund: fast-paced, counter-attacking, pressing, high line, lots of link-up play, and they take good advantage of the quality on the wings, including the England under-21 Jamie Gittens, formerly known as Jamie Bino Gittens, who a lot of people are marking up to be the next Jadon Sancho.
He scored a couple of goals, didn't he, in the opener against Club Brugge? So he's in form. So yeah, it sounds like there might be goals in this game. We're scoring a lot of goals, and if you're saying Dortmund like to attack and maybe can be caught out at the back. There may well be goals in this.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Arne Engels, obviously, Niklas
Yeah.
Kuhn, who both know the Bundesliga quite well, which is an advantage. And I think that in general, from what we've seen this season, Dortmund certainly create a lot of opportunities. And yes, I would expect there to be goals in the game. I mean, they've only had 1-0 so far against Bremen. And yeah, I would expect that to be the case.
How would Celtic be viewed in Germany and in Dortmund? Obviously, we're sitting very high in the league table. We're second. Dortmund are fifth, so they're doing very well as well. But it's clearly a game that Dortmund will expect to win. But would there be a feeling that Celtic are in form at the moment and it may be a tough game?
I mean, Dortmund has played against both Rangers and Celtic numerous times in international competition. We've encountered the other side of Glasgow more regularly than Celtic, but they're always massive occasions. People love the Scots tradition. They love the British tradition of football. People in Germany the fans really admire the German tradition of football. And Celtic are obviously one of the most historic British football clubs. I think perhaps the SPL is generally not regarded as being quite on the standard, perhaps on the standard of perhaps Holland or Belgium or something like that on a good day. I think what this is really an opportunity for the fans to shine through, for there to be that great "You Never Walk Alone," the great atmosphere, the common shared players, people like Murdo McLeod, Paul Lambert, and I know that Murdo and Paul are both planning to go down to the game. So I think it's going to be just a really warm occasion between two great football clubs, with hopefully a nice result either way at the end.
Yeah, it's going to. That was my final question, Ben. How do you see the game going?
I think probably Celtic will nip one, but I think Dortmund probably have the quality at the moment and the momentum on their side, in spite of you beating my mum, Shayna's team, St Johnstone 6-0 at the weekend, which I haven't shared with her yet. But I mean, obviously Celtic have got a lot of attacking prowess as well. But I think that in spite of Brendan Rodgers, as you said, knowing our players fairly well, I just think that at the end of the day, Dortmund have probably got too much quality in the side. So I think Celtic may struggle, but what I can guarantee is that the fans will enjoy the day, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to the match myself too.
Oh, I think we all are, Ben. Thanks so much for joining us. That was Ben McFadyean. Great insight there on Borussia Dortmund and Dortmund, the city, I guess, as well. And plenty to consider ahead of tomorrow's game. It's just kind of got me going a bit more. And we'll continue that theme by finishing with some of your comments from the reaction video that we did yesterday with John. Check that out, by the way, if you haven't already. It's linked at the top of the screen. Okay, we're starting with David Red. Loving Celtic right now. Dortmund will be extremely tough, particularly in their backyard. I think we can get something, but losing by a goal while putting in a good performance won't be the end of the world. But we can 100% get something. Everyone that's going, enjoy and do your bit in the stadium. Now, obviously, goes without saying that going into this game, the thing I want more than anything else is a positive result. I think we're capable, genuinely believe we're capable of getting a positive result. A draw would be a terrific outcome for us. Delighted if we manage to get a draw. If we win the game, I'll be somewhere up there on the ceiling for Wednesday morning's video. You'll need to scrape me down. But losing is a possibility as well, and the most probable outcome at this stage, we're going away to the runners-up of the entire tournament last season. This is, apart from Man City, Real Madrid, and the absolute top 3 or 4 teams in Europe, this is about as hard as it gets in this competition. So it's a real tough ask, and we might lose the game because Dortmund, if they turn up and play their best football, etc., it'll be very difficult for us. So yeah, results the main thing that I want. I think as well, though, I want Celtic to show that they belong at this level. And to just, even if we don't manage to get anything from the game, just to give us all more encouragement that stuff is possible at this level, and to keep the confidence high, and really kind of convince us all further, like we all feel, that this is a different Celtic team, and this might be one of the Celtic teams with the most potential we've had in certainly 10 or 15 years. So we obviously set a really high standard in our opening game. That was against Slovan Bratislava, who are expected to struggle in this year's competition. But regardless of the opposition, we played extremely well. We were clinical in both boxes, and it's that kind of thing I want to see going forward. We were able to maintain our energy for 90 minutes in that game, and actually it was Bratislava who were the ones that were knackered. So again, is that something we can keep up against a team like Dortmund? Last year it's something we struggled with. We were in virtually every game, I think, apart from Atletico away going into the second half, but we kind of fell away in the second half in most of those games. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on tomorrow. And can we impose ourselves on the game? Can, like, the likes of Nicholas Kuhn and Arne Engels, who Ben interestingly mentioned both of those guys, can they show the kind of quality we've seen in recent matches at that level? Dies and Maida would be another one. So I think that the sense amongst the Celtic supporters, this is a really good Celtic team. The really intriguing thing about tomorrow night is that we have an opportunity as a support to find out how good this Celtic team really are by turning up and playing well against elite opposition. So that's what I'm most excited for, because I do feel like for the first time in a number of years, I actually have a bit of confidence going into a game against a top team. Like I actually feel, and this may age, horrendously tomorrow, but I actually feel like we can hurt Dortmund and we can get a result by actually playing our way, which is quite a mad thing to say given where we were at the start of this year, but that's how I feel going into the game. So that's what I'm most excited for. It's a real tough game against a top side, but I feel like Celtic can actually compete at that level. We don't have any evidence really of that yet because we've not played a team like Dortmund this season, but it's time to find out, and that's what I'm excited for tomorrow. Right, El Madeira, can't mentally or emotionally expect anything on Tuesday as my head's been wrecked, even with domestic supremacy, so many times in European games. If there's a turning point against Dortmund, then I begin to hope again. That's exactly what I mean, actually. This is, it's time for this team to prove that there's something that we haven't been in Europe for a number of years. Even if we lose the game, I think we have the chance to show something tomorrow night in Dortmund. DVP, we are looking like a fantastic unit, entertainment of the Postecoglou era, but without the helter-skelter stuff and massive gaps all over the midfield that good teams exploit. Back to the days of 90-minute performances too. Big Trusty looks quality, absolute athlete, fantastic pace, and looks very comfortable with the ball at his feet. I really think we could be moving on to a level that we have not seen in decades. That's a massive statement you've made at the end there. Decades. But I think there is a growing feeling amongst the support, and I certainly feel this, and I know John does. I've not spoken to Steve about this, but I think he would probably agree that we might be witnessing a really, really top Celtic team. Just feels like we've kind of been building to this point over the last few years, even under Ange Postecoglou. As amazing as that was at the time, and as much as we felt like, how do I word this? As much as we felt like those were the glory days, and they were amazing, it feels looking back like possibly that was the building point, and maybe if Postecoglou had stayed, he would have been the one that would have got the rewards from that. But it feels like Brendan Rodgers has come in and taken us to the next level that we felt like Postecoglou would. So Rodgers deserves so much credit, and it just feels to me like the last couple of seasons that we've had in the Champions League have maybe been building up to this campaign. But again, we've only played one game, and it was against Slovan Bratislava. So we need to see Celtic in these really tough arenas, tough matches, to actually find out if this is a properly top Celtic team that can be spoken about in the same breath as the teams that got to the last 10, 15 years ago. So that's what I'm excited about. But I don't know how you feel about this, but like I've not mentioned this probably, I'm so buzzing for the game tomorrow, like in comparison to how I was feeling ahead of the first derby against Rangers this season. Like, it's not even comparable. Like, I'm so much more excited for tomorrow and going up against a top European team than I was for the derby. And I just feel personally, I mean, we'll always have Scottish football, we'll always, enjoy Scottish football. I'll never tire of winning trophies, and that will continue, hopefully, as we continue to win trophies. But this season has felt a little bit different to me. It does feel like we're so much better than any other team domestically, that it is these Champions League games that really get me going. And I actually think they're the ones that get Brendan Rodgers and the team really going. Now, I'm well aware that we've still been unbelievable domestically, and that's something Rodgers wanted to point out on Saturday. But certainly me as a fan, and probably a number of you as well, I've just noticed that this season that the Champions League is kind of what everyone is talking about, and where everyone is really getting going for the games. That may not be anything new, but it just feels like that is where Celtic want to be measured. And again, big opportunity tomorrow. Yeah, is anyone a bit nervous? I'm suddenly getting a bit nervous looking ahead to the game. Just as well, we've got another video tomorrow to chat about this some more. We will, of course, have Brendan Rodgers chatting to the media in Dortmund this evening. Celtic will be flying out, I assume, lunchtime-ish. I don't know if they'll be training. Tended to train at Celtic Park recently, haven't we, the day before these European games, and then fly out. So we'll hear from Brendan Rodgers later, a player as well. We'll discuss that on tomorrow's video, along with probably some more of your comments and whatever else, predicted 11s, stuff like that. Yeah, enjoy the calmness of Monday, everyone. Tuesday might not be quite as chilled.